Some Ottawa condo owners are about to write a check just to sell their own unit. Not to buy a unit, to sell the unit that they already own. These aren't speculators or people who are looking to flip units a lot of the time. Many of them are regular people, a lot of young couples, who bought a 1 or 2 bedroom pre-sale unit in 2021 or 2022 when the Ottawa condo market was at its peak. They thought they were being careful, getting in early, locking in before prices ran away from them, because in those years, it seemed like the Ottawa condo market was going nowhere but up. And over the last couple of years, those buildings have been completing, the appraisals are coming back low, and the losses on some of these units are well into the 6 figures. If you own a pre-construction condo that's about to close, or you're a buyer eyeing one of these resale units, you need to understand exactly what's happening before you make that move. The first thing to understand is this didn't happen because of a crash or a few bad headlines. It happened because there's 3 separate things that are happening around the same time here. First is the rates. Buyers signed those pre-sale contracts at peak era pricing with a monthly payment that assumed cheap money, below 2% in some cases. These rates climbed sharply over the last few years, and affordability just collapsed on these units. And the pool of people who could actually afford them got a lot smaller. The second thing to hit was a wave of completions. A large number of Ottawa projects launched between 2020 and 2022 in pre-sale because the market looked so good. A lot of them downtown condo buildings. These buildings have been finishing over the last couple of years, and all at once, instead of just a trickle of new inventory, the market is swallowing a flood of near identical units in a very small window. And the last thing that happened is the investor math just stopped working. Now, a lot of these people, like I mentioned, were end users who were looking to live in the units, but a lot of them were also people who were buying these as investments and looking to rent them out to tenants. And these investors are now competing against new purpose-built rental buildings that are offering pretty attractive incentives for new tenants a lot of the time. And rents in Ottawa are actually under pressure right now. They've come down a couple of percent year over year. The income assumption that made the purchase make sense from an investment perspective just completely broke and doesn't hold now in 2026. So if you stack these 3 things together, the losses aren't really a surprise. They just kind of make sense when you look at the numbers. Now, the part that's really catching people off guard here and is really kind of making things much worse happens before you even take possession of the unit. When a pre-construction unit completes, you go to the bank to finance it, and the bank doesn't care what you agreed to pay in 2021. What the bank cares about is securing their loan, and they care what the unit is worth today. So say you signed for a unit at $550,000, and today it appraises at $430,000. That $120,000 gap isn't a loan. It's cash that you have to bring to the table in order to close on this unit. And the moment it goes in, it's basically gone because you've already lost that value. It's not equity that you're getting back unless the prices shoot up hard over the next few years, which I wouldn't count on happening based on what the most recent stats are saying. And to add insult to injury, there's also the HST to consider, which was calculated, of course, on the original contract price, not today's valuation. So if you bought at the peak, you're paying taxes on the peak, even though the unit isn't worth that anymore. The government is not going to refund you the difference. And if you can't close and you're trying to sell the unit before completion, you're competing against other units in the same building, many people who are likely in the same situation and maybe priced lower than yours, chasing that same smaller handful of buyers. After commissions and closing costs are factored in, a lot of owners end up in a net negative position with these places. And that's what a locked-in loss looks like. It's not a paper dip, it's actually money out the door that you're paying as soon as you close. So to make this feel a little more real, picture yourself as somebody who bought one of these units in 2022. Say you have 2 incomes, both employed, good incomes. These aren't people who were gambling, they were trying to beat the market before it left them behind. The unit completes this year and the appraisal comes in $100,000 under the contract price. So they're sitting at their kitchen table, the savings spreadsheet is open, and they're having a hard conversation about whether to borrow from family members, try to close and eat the loss, or walk away and forfeit their deposit, plus whatever other damages they'd have to pay for defaulting on the contract. None of this is the plan that they signed up for. Now, if you flip the script and pretend you're an Ottawa condo buyer right now, you're in a completely different situation. You've got no pre-construction rope hanging around your neck. You got motivated sellers all over the place, more choice than the market has offered in years. If you're sitting at your kitchen table, it's a calm, fun discussion where you're looking at all the different options that you have. You're comparing units in the same building at numbers that were unthinkable 2 or 3 years ago. You're taking your time and basically you're holding all the leverage in this negotiation. So if you're in one of these situations, what do you do? If you're closing on a pre-sale unit soon, talk to the mortgage broker now, not at the closing table. Know what that gap is before it sneaks up on you, and get advice about the HST treatment as well, because it differs depending on whether or not you're an investor or whether or not you're an end user. If you own a completed unit, maybe you just took possession and you're thinking of selling, be brutally honest about your competition. Pull the active listings and also pull the recent sales, and accept that you may have to price at or below those recent sales due to the downward trajectory of the condo market right now. You're going to be competing with both units that are on the market that are completed, as well as assignment sellers and investors who may be far more motivated than you are to get out of these deals. Now, if you're buying, there is potentially a real window of opportunity here in the Ottawa condo market. Motivated sellers, room to negotiate, and genuine choice. But you gotta do your building level homework. Not every one of these situations is equal, and some sellers are more distressed than others. So you gotta know why the seller is selling, and you also need to consider whether or not you wanna be in the position in a few years to try and sell a unit into a section of the market that is not doing well right now. If you're someone who's going to hang around for 10 plus years, then I think it's a great time. But if you're someone who thinks you may want to sell this unit in the next 5, it may be worth waiting kind of 12 to 18 months to see what prices do before jumping in, if you can afford to wait. The bottom line here is that Ottawa isn't immune to the scenarios that are playing out in Toronto and Vancouver with pre-construction condos. It's not as severe as it is in those bigger markets, but it's still a rough time if you're somebody who bought at the peak.